My name is Barbara Reiko Mikami, and now Keimi. And I was 5 years old, 6 years old, when I went to the Merced Assembly Center. And then from there, I went to Aochi, Colorado. And then we ended up in Tule Lake.
My name is June Kyoko Aochi Berk.
Wow.
And I am 88 years old, and I was 10 years old when I went into camp. And I went to Rower. First I went to Santa Anita Assembly Center, and then from there we went to Rower, Arkansas.
My name is Masako Iwawaki Koga-Murakami, and we did not go to Assembly Center, but we moved to, I'm from San Francisco, we moved to Fowler, and then we went to Gila Camp 1, and then when my parents wanted to go to Japan because my father was the eldest in the family, so we went to Tule Lake. They both answered no, no.
I don't remember packing up for camp, but then I know when we were living in Huntington Beach with my grand uncle, my mother's uncle and aunt, because my dad had been picked up by then. And so we were living in Huntington Beach with my grand aunt's house. And I know at night it was blackout, and so the curtains had all black curtains on there. And then I would try to peek out, like in the early morning, and to see, what I could see. And to me, I remember seeing soldiers standing on the roofs, because we were in like a complex with the other families living in homes. And when I looked out the window, it looked like I saw soldiers standing on the roofs. And then because my dad had been picked up and my mother was left with me and my brother, we decided, or my mom decided, to go with some friends to Yuba City.
I remember before we went to camp, we had yard sales all along the block. Everybody put their furniture up on the lawn, and it was like a yard sale, and we had to sell everything that we could. And I remember selling my dad's lawnmower for 50 cents, and I thought that was a big deal, and I was very happy. And then we heard we better pack boots to go to Manzanar or Poston because they have snakes and other things that might bite us. And then I didn't want to wear those big old ugly brown boots, so I made my mother buy me really cute white majorette boots.
I remember those.
Yeah, because during Nisei week before the war, I used to follow, I don't know what her name was, but she was a girl that led the Nisei week parade, twirling a baton. And she, I just wanted to be like her, do the baton. So I made my mother buy me majorette boots to take to camp. And then they told us to buy big goggles because there's a lot of dust storms in Manzanar and Poston. So we got ready to go to camp, and I don't remember too much. I remember we had a dog, a puppy named Tippy. And I don't know what happened to him. I think we left him with our neighbor. I'm hoping we left him with our neighbor. And I don't know how my brother and I were trying to figure out who took us to the bus station.
Sorry.
And we, from the bus station, we got on the bus and the bus took us to Santa Anita. I remember seeing while we were on the bus, some kids on the playground school came running up to us and I was waving to them and I thought they were waving back to us, but they had somebody had a sign that said, "Good riddance, Japs." And then I sort of sat down and I realized that they were just happy to get rid of us. So we rode on the bus and I don't remember, I'm sure there were armed guards there at the bus station for us to get on the bus. And that scared me. Then when we got to Santa Anita, we were told to take one sack, and then we took one sack each, and then we stuffed it with straw from the straw pile, and that was our mattress to sleep on. So we took that, we dragged it to the horse stall that we were going to be placed in, and we saw the horse stall, and my father, my mother, and I slept in the back part of the horse stall, and my sister and my brother slept in the front, quote, living room of the horse stall. So I guess that's where they kept the hay or something. So that's what I remember about going into camp.
We moved from San Francisco to Fowler, California, which is in central California, Fresno, because that was supposedly the white zone, and my father thought that we wouldn't have to go to camp if we went there. But lo and behold, there we were with all the Central California Japanese. So we went to Gila, Camp 1, and we were there until we were sent to Tule Lake. That was it. I don't remember packing anything because we were basically moving to get out of San Francisco and go to live with my mother's aunt and uncle. And we all lived in one little house. And then we went to camp. Must have been maybe a month or two, I don't know.
I remember my brother had, I guess they bought my brother a bike. And so I wanted to ride on the bike. And I didn't know how. And so I know my dad used to, in the evening time, he would, get me on the bike and then he would, take me all over the camps, just riding me. And that was fun. I mean, I just remember that.
For me, camp was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun because we had friends to play with all the time, and all we did was play. And when we were in Santa Anita, it was summer vacation time. So my brother would play baseball all day long because the horse stall smelled so bad he didn't want to come home until nighttime. And I think we just hung out at going from different mess halls to just try different food. And we met a lot of new friends, and it was fun because we never had to worry about getting home on time for anything. We just whenever we wanted to eat, we would just go to a mess hall. And I remember that part. I remember in Brower that Takayo, she had a book on how to twirl a baton, and she taught all of us, a lot of us girls, how to twirl the baton, and she had a class that was 7th grade. So we had a baton twirling class, and then we became majorettes in camp. And the young people, like my brother, was in social clubs, and this is him in a zoot suit. Yeah. And they had dances with girls clubs, and this is one of the invitations to the dances. And I think what else we used to do was cut out movie star pictures, and we pasted on our wall. So we would have pictures of Lana Turner, Tyrone Power, and people like that on our walls. And we would just wait for the hit parade to come on so that we could hear what's the latest, most popular songs outside of camp, like Frank Sinatra, Perry Como, and we used to follow them week by week. And that was exciting to us.
I think the best time I had in camp was attending Japanese school. I really enjoyed it. I thought the teachers, who were all from Japan, were really great, had great education. We're way ahead of others in math when we came out of camp. I thought the Japanese schools were just terrific. And we went to Japanese school half a day in the morning, and then we would go to the regular school in the afternoon. I don't remember much about the regular school, but I just really remember the Japanese schools. That I took away from Tuli. That was the best part of it.
Well, my dad, we were living in Huntington Beach, and my dad was working for my granduncle, who was the chili king in Orange County, Huntington Beach. And he was working with him. And then, so when they started rounding up all the men folks, you know, the FBI came and rounded him up. It was mainly because my brother had just started Japanese school, and they asked my dad to be on the board of the Japanese school. And my dad said, well, no, you know, he declined it because he said he was too busy working on, you know, the farm and the ranch. And so he wasn't able to, you know, carry out the duties of work being on the board. But so they said, well, that's okay. You don't have to come to the meetings. Just lend us your name and we'll just put it on as a member of the board. And so that's why my dad got picked up. And then so after he got picked up, then that's when, you know, my mom, my brother, and I, you know, we moved with friends to Yuba City. And then that's where we went from camp. And then what happened was, after that, when we were in the assembly center, I guess my dad, that's where my dad came back, you know, came to after being picked up, because, well, he was at Tahunga or Tuna Canyon camp. And I went to see him one time while we were there, while he was there. And then I remember seeing, you know, the chain link fence in front of us. And, you know, we were, you know, just kind of shot across to talk to my dad through the fence. But then I guess my dad joined us at Assembly Center. And then because then I was looking at photographs that I had of being in the Assembly Center, and then between our barracks, I guess they had built an archway, and it was called Morning Glory. And then so they took a picture with everybody that was in the 2 barracks, I guess. And so I have that photo.
I think my dad and my mom suffered the most because they were just coming out of depression and having a hard time, and they were just getting back on their feet when the war came. So when we had to go to camp, I think it's like my father felt like they took everything away from him, but he was a teacher of Gidayu, which is sort of a shamisen kabuki songs, and he was teaching that. And I think he felt that they can take everything away from me, but they can't take away my dignity. And I think that kind of feeling was passed on to all of us. And I think that more than some people say shikata ga nai or gaman, I think my father and mother, or mostly my father, would teach us out of his attitude of makenaide, which means stay strong and don't feel defeated. And I think that that kind of attitude helped us keep our sense of self in camp. And I want to show you a picture that's in, can you see that? But somebody in camp in our block cut logs and made teeter-totters for us. So when I saw her recently, she gave me this picture of Angela and myself on the teeter-totter in our block in camp. So it's very precious to me, and I keep it with me all the time. We were good friends in camp, and we played volleyball practically every day, before dinner and after dinner. And also, the men would build us stilts so that we could play on stilts because the grounds were so muddy in Rower. And so things like that, that I think the adults in camp try to make our childhood as normal as possible. We were able to have Japanese programs in camp to, they wanted, at first they said, no, we can't. And then later on they said, to keep the morale up of the Issei's, they let us do Japanese shows. So this is a picture of me playing shamisen. We had a program, and this is a group of girls that danced in camp. And this is also a dance that they all did, and I was singing in the background. But all of the decorations and all of the background scenes were all done by the parents. They all made the flowers hanging from the stage, and the background, the backdrops were all made by the parents.
Well, I think my father, being the eldest, that's what I thought, that he was going to go back to Japan because he was the eldest son. But after his father died during the war, so I figured that he felt he didn't have to go back, so we didn't go. But basically, he was so upset with the government, U.S. government, for putting us in camp. That was his way of resisting by saying no to the questions, which I didn't know until he was, like 90. And because as typical Japanese groups, families, we didn't discuss camps or anything except for how much fun we had and the schools we went to and the people we knew. Basically, that was it. But I think for me, because we were so young, I was 10 when we left camp. So we didn't have dances, and we didn't have clubs or anything like that. We had 4 friends who were in the same block, and until probably last year, we used to meet when there's one of the girls lived in Fresno, but she still does. And then the 3 of us live in the LA area. So we started getting together, and we did until last year. So that was nice. And we take a picture in the same way we did in camp, in front of the barrack. But I think my parents really suffered because they were in their early 30s, just starting out, no money. And when they came back, they didn't have anything. So we didn't have any place to go to. So we were at Hunter's Point in San Francisco. We were there for a little while. It's government run. And then they found a place to live in San Francisco. And eventually they were able to borrow money and buy a house. So, but they never grumbled about anything, which I give them a lot of credit for.
Is, all the time we were in camp, and now they talk about, oh, that injustice and all that, but then while we were growing up in camp, it seems like my folks never said anything anti about the United States. I mean, they never said how bad it was, and how could they do this to us and whatever. They were always, they never said nothing negative about the United States. And so I think that, whatever they felt, they never related to my brother and I. I mean, it was just, we just went on our lives the best way we could. And so, I don't know, I think that to me is, very strong of my folks to be able to do that.
And I remember when they were talking about it, and they were saying, when they were doing redress, they said, why didn't the young people of our era protest? A lot of them were in 442. A lot of them had been taken away to Department of Justice camps. So the people who were left were either young or women, and they didn't have the wherewithal to protest those things. And I think there was a lot of resistance in Tule Lake. There was a lot of problems. I remember they had a lot of, some riots. People were put in jail inside the camp, and then they were sent out to another jail. And but I was so young that I didn't really know there was a murder in camp. My father used to work at the co-op. And, there was a lot of turmoil, I'm sure, with the key base in Tule Lake, which I didn't know anything about until I came out. So the good things I brought back from camp was because of the Japanese schools. I remember singing the Japanese anthem. I mean, to me, it was, how to study, how to, you have to excel. You can't fool around in class. And I feel I had really a positive effect from all the schools. And I remember the teachers I thought were the greatest ones I had all my life.
But, last night I couldn't sleep because when the president says he's going to activate the national military to keep order of the protesters, I thought that's what happened to us in 1942. They put the U.S. military against the Japanese. And what would have happened if we would have resisted or protested and didn't say we're not going to get on that bus, would they have shot us? And all of a sudden I got so scared last night I couldn't sleep because I was just reliving the whole thing again of using national military force against American citizens and how that is happening again today. The threat of saying they're going to use military force, putting the military against the citizens of the American citizens, whether they are black, brown, or white, or Asian, to me is just so scary that that could happen again.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.